All right, let's get started with the January committee meeting. Our first committee tonight is the Budget Administration Committee. Mr. Chappell.
Bill number 724A, appropriation of $297,000, Department 0099, hotel motel. Petitioner.
Josh Sisk is gonna be attending to answer any questions. And I think that he'll be able to present it to you.
Josh, can you hear me?
All right. Yeah, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
All right. Sorry about that. I'm in a hotel room at a conference. Can you hear me all right?
Yes, I can.
Okay, so we had taken out a bond on the hotel motel tax for $5.5 million for this new cafe and bear habitat that we're doing. The total project was about 6.2 million. So through fundraising and the hotel motel tax, we were able to get this project completed. But we're still short that last $297,000. That's the last remaining balance to Majority Builders for the construction. So we've exhausted the total balance of the hotel motel tax. And then we, through private donations, have paid the rest. And then this balance here will go ahead and finish that project for us.
Questions for the petitioner? I have a couple of questions. It looks like the bill is $296,044 and you're asking for $297,000. I'm just curious why the difference?
Honestly, I need the 290s. I need what the balance is. The reason there's the extra dollar, I think, because when I first brought this up that we needed this, I just rounded up and then we never had a conversation about it again. And it just made the agenda as that. I think through our email conversations, I just said I need about $297,000, and that number just kind of stuck in everyone's head.
The $956 is just a roundup.
Yeah, the actual Margie, you're there. You have the invoice. I think the actual invoice is 296 something and some change.
296.44.
Yeah.
Okay, so the $956 is a roundup.
Yeah.
Okay, and from where is this money coming?
So we have that 0.5% hotel motel tax coming to us for the next 20 years. When we worked this out with the bond, it was under our understanding that as long as there's 2 years worth of bond payments in the account, we have to leave at least that balance in the account in case there's another, heaven forbid, a natural disaster or something. But any extra funds that are accumulated over time, the zoo would be able to have access to for master plan improvement, not for operations or anything, but for these capital improvements. So that money would be, I think we have about 1 million some and change in that account, in that hotel tax account.
Okay, very good. Any other questions for the petitioner? May I have a motion, please? Motion to send it forward. Second. Okay, we have a motion to send forward favorably in a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed. Bill number 724A moves forward with a favorable recommendation. Thank you. All right, bill number 8-24, salary amendment, department commissioners, and I think that's combined with bill number 7-24B. Petitioner?
Earl Baxmeyer, Board of Commissioners. As you know, we've been reorganizing the 7th floor, and we eliminated a position part-time. We would like to reallocate that money to 2 other positions. So we are increasing the duties assigned to Green Roberts, our hearing officer, and I'd like to change her title to Directorate of Physical Assets. We're going to have several sub-departments report to her, including fleet, procurement, facility management. So that we have one point of contact on those. We feel that raises that position up to the level of director, similar to Courtney, Bill, Sky, Abby, and Richard over there. It is budget neutral. We would take another part of that savings from the elimination of that position and apply that to the safety director, who would be responsible for liability and then report to. So it is budget neutral, and we would ask for your favorable recommendation for that.
Thank you, Carl, pretty good. Mr. Cantor, I'm not aware of a reorganization of the commission. You said, so we all, I'm not aware.
Oh, if I said I so, I should have
Yeah.
said that, I'm sorry. We did, we eliminated a position, a part-time position. Somebody who was responsible for a liability issue. And we felt that that could be handled by one person. And Robert Yuri was doing some of that. He resigned,
Right,
so we are taking the work the liability person did and moving that to the safety director. To Sure that we're getting the maximum benefit from that position.
any other questions? Mr. Bell.
Yes, thank you. So Director of Physical Assets versus Director of Procurement, I know procurement, I know it's a title, is it gonna be too much for her, or, I mean, I don't. This seems like, is she gonna be overwhelmed with this?
Not the way we don't feel that she will be, under the way we've organized it. Having facilities report to her, having a fleet report to her, so that she can keep an overview of what's happening. I think it's great. She does a wonderful job. She's been excellent at everything we've asked her to do. Over the year and a half that I've been in office. I think she's the right person for the job.
Was this a sudden change, or I'm just wondering about budget and all that, in budget season, why didn't it happen, you know?
That's a good question. Well. Safety Director Robert Yuri was unexpected. We had already begun to look at division of labor. And that kind of sped things up a little bit. When he left, we have somebody from code applied for, and we've placed in that position. We want to have all of that in one position. It seemed to be cost effective.
So who's gonna do this?
Bree, and she's got her assistant.
Oh, the assistant's still there. She's not, I thought she left, wrong. So my second question is, what's the total, will her salary, $100,000. From 65?
Yes. 61.5 is here.
So that the salary is gonna straddle two funds, gonna straddle the general fund and the commissioner department and the liability fund. That we use for paying liability, workers' comp. Insurance investigation, so it's a total.
I have another question, or maybe it's anybody else. Can we give Bree a pretty good raise?
She was a 5% raise, but there was 1 and 2 years ago.
I think it's right if I got on the council. That, I lost a position and we gave her a pretty good raise, it would be.
Well, she was overseeing the ERP project, which didn't.
Right. But anyway, that's what I was thinking, so it was my first year, maybe I've been on a couple of months.
Any other questions for the petition? May I have a motion? Motion to send it without recommendation.
Second.
All those in favor of sending bill number 8-24 and bill number 7-24 to the full council without recommendations, say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Bill number 8-24 and 7-24 go to the full council without recommendation. Bill number 9-24 and bill number 7-24C, salary amendments, auditor. Commissioner here. Okay, have it right to that.
One moment. Right. So. I think this is in part, I'm sorry, this is in part with that of Bree's position.
Because of the two funds, you have 4 bills.
Yes. So she would be, her pay would be split between the general fund and the liability fund. So this part is coming out of the liability fund.
Everything's been explained.
Yes.
I will want to have the motion.
All right, very good. So we do need a motion then on bill number 9-24 and 7-24 C.
Motion to send without recommendation.
Second.
All right, we have a motion to send bill number 9-24 and 7-24 C to the full council with no recommendation. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Bill number 9-24 and 7-24 C go to the full council with no recommendation. Bill number 10-24 and 7-24 D, salary amendment, $20,048. Clerk.
Yes, Amy Rolfus, County Clerk, office in the basement, which is warming up of the courthouse one. This is in regards to the deputy county attorney who was not included in our 2024 budget. We overlooked that, and he had not been included in a 2023 and when everything was all, more so lumped together. So when we were adding clarity and pulling it out, we were remiss in adding him as the deputy county attorney. So this $20,048 was to the deputy county attorney, which would be his salary of $16,000, and then the other benefits that would be included with that.
Any questions for the petition? Sure. Mr. Tanzarek.
Clerk, has that position always fallen under your budget?
No, this is the first time that we've been able to see, yes,
Okay.
yeah, to
So a deputy
Understand
county
that.
attorney is assigned to the clerk's office.
as there's an election board attorney.
Okay.
And, but it does fall under the clerk's budget, because I didn't see it in the election board's budget from last year as well.
So it's the election, this is not the election.
This is the county attorney for the clerk.
No, I'm looking at a previous budget, 2023, and I don't see it.
Yes, agreed.
Marty, you'll recall that. Item work at the department, transparency, the attorney fee throughout the county. So that was, through the budget process.
You're bringing them back to each individual department.
Any other questions for the petition? All right, if there are no other questions, may I have a motion on bill number 10-24 and 7-24 D? Motion.
Second.
Motion is favorable. And a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Bill number 10-24 and 7-24 D, leave the full council with a favorable recommendation. Giroux, I am finished.
Next up is the Human Services Criminal Justice Committee. This is Greg.
President Root, bill number 724E, an appropriation of $130,000 Superior Court.
How you guys doing? Richard Warfield, IT Director, third floor of the law building. We are asking for this money to complete the tech upgrade for the course that was started, but when it was looked at before, nobody was here that is currently in the position, so a lot of things go, so this will be to complete that. And the things that were overlooked was a lot of the electrical and the data wire. So.
Question?
Thank you, Mr. So this appropriation is an additional appropriation. It is not budget neutral, correct?
That is correct.
So one of the things I'm concerned about is our budget is pretty tight. $130,000 is a huge chunk of the bit we were over on the budget. Was this something that it looks like? Is it something that we just missed when we did the budget, or was this something that just recently came to your attention?
This was something that just recently came to our attention after we did another walkthrough of the course to see where we put certain items in. The infrastructure for those items were not there, so we have to account for that in order to finish the project.
Okay. I point out too that this is not the general budget, this is the CCD budget. We probably on CCD. We're good. I'll sum up on that, yeah.
You could go. Thank you.
With the balance.
The balance, estimated balance for the end of 2024 without this will be 740,000.
The original project, I think, was paid for by American Rescue Plan dollars. Originally, we had asked the state for a grant and we didn't receive that grant, and the council decided to go ahead and use American Rescue Plan for that project. This is finished that project.
That is correct, yes.
So you said it was 740 before this.
Yep.
Anybody else? Okay, a motion on bill number 7724E.
Second.
All those in favor? Opposed? Bill number 7724E moves forward with favorable recommendation.
Thank you.
Bill. Bill number 724F, budget reduction, 15,000, prosecutor.
Operating for prosecutor's office is on the 10th floor of this building. We're asking for an adjustment in our Department of Corrections account, the grant. And the amount that we've got appropriated is greater than the amount that we got. So we want to reduce the budget for this particular grant, $15,000.
Any questions about that?
No problem.
Okay, motion on bill number 7724F.
Motion's in favor. Second.
All those in favor? Opposed? Okay, bill number 724F moves forward with favorable recommendation. Bill number 1124, a salary amendment, prosecutor combined with an appropriation of $11,885.
We're asking for an increase that will be paid out of the prosecutor's diversion funds. We have a grant position that's responsible for federal, a felony rather, diversion program. There's 3 different divisions. There's the felony, there's a misdemeanor, and there's the what do they call it? The infraction. We're going to take a person that's now in charge of the felony diversion, and make her responsible for all, and have everybody up there report to her supervisor. We're asking for a $10,000 raise for her. And again, the salary increase and all the fringes connected with it, paid out of prosecutor's diversion fund. No increases in the county budget.
Questions? Yes, Mr. Chesel.
So you said she was taking care of the felony cases, but now she's taking care of all the cases. When you budgeted for 2024, who was expected to take care of those non-felony cases?
I don't understand what you mean.
Well, it sounds like,
Well, there was, in addition, there was a person doing each of these.
okay,
And now to relieve some of the pressures on the prosecuting attorney, the deputy prosecutors, she's going to take over the day-to-day supervision and then deal with the grant reports and everything like that too.
so she's taking that load off the deputy prosecutor.
Yes. And gives everybody one person to report to in the immediate area.
Okay, so in the 2024 budget, it was the deputy prosecutor's responsibility, but now we're moving that responsibility.
Giving her more. She's a pretty bright person. She can handle it. Shouldn't say she, the person is.
Tanner.
Thank you. Mr. Redhoover, I thought we elevated somebody else within that department to a supervisory role during budget season. Did we not?
Yeah,
I have discussed it.
like I say,
We may have discussed it and not ultimately decided.
We could.
Drake, could I ask a question?
Certainly, Mr. Dalton.
I get concerned about this pretrial fund. You guys pay for a lot of things out of it. Will it run out of money?
It's not as rich as it used to be, but we have actually 2 other funds we can pull from. And there's about 150,000 in each of those funds. But this is the fund that Ken likes to use, especially if we're paying salaries out of it. And I think right now it's like 140,000 or so in it. we do a monthly analysis of the fund and then try to project out the end of the year what's gonna be in it.
What do your projections say right now?
That was the end of the year, I think.
We plan about,
Oh, well, by the end of the year, you will use that money out.
we're bringing in enough at these for it. Not like it used to be. Back in the day, 15 years ago, we're bringing in 30 or 40,000 a month. Times have changed. People don't like to go to deferral. They don't want to pay the money. They just soon take their chances and get a ticket, pay more on their insurance. Go to jail. We could stay in jail. No, people, it's amazing. Just like we used to have a check, a bad check. Right. People don't write checks anymore. So needless to say, that thing dried up. No,
I can understand that, but I don't understand the logic of not wanting to get into a pre-trial diversion fund as opposed to your rate going up or whatever else, taking your chances. I just don't get that.
changing the times. We have a person who goes to court and meets the accused, I should say, and discuss everything with them, go over the whole guidelines, and people just aren't interested. We probably get 12 to 15,000 a month.
Okay.
So there's still people.
Right.
There's probably, at any one time, there's probably about 70 people participating in it.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
A motion on bill number 1124 combined with 724G.
Second.
All those in favor? Opposed? Bill number 1124 combined with number 724G moves favorable with these favorable recommendation. Bill number 724H, an appropriation of $8,000. Sheriff.
Good evening, Council. Steve Noonan, Executive Officer for the County Police Department, address 401 West Sample. This is from the non-reverting fund that's the Sheriff's Dare Fund. It's funded by fundraisers, golf outings, hay rides, and then there's donations to it as well. This is just setting the expense of spending $8,000 for Dare books, workbooks, and different items used to teach the Dare class for 2024.
Questions on that? Is there a motion?
Favorably.
Second.
All those in favor? Opposed? Bill number 724H moves forward with a favorable recommendation. Bill number 1224, salary amendment on the jail, a transfer of $174,000.
Steve Noonan again. This represents a request for 2 new positions. We're referring to them as bond clerks. And what they would do is work in the tower, the front tower of the jail, replacing 2 corrections officers Monday through Friday, 8 to 4:30. We have found that most of our business that's conducted down there is happening during those traditional business hours. And that will allow us to move 4 corrections officers each day back into the jail to work inside the jail, where we are currently about 42 people short. We've also been able, with technology, with commissary, we're able now to have kiosks in the front that are self-serve, that people can come in and put money on the inmates' books and things like that. It doesn't need the personnel actually handling the cash. It goes right into the machine, and then that's actually handled by the commissary vendor and Brinks. The second part of it is we've had 4 or 5 people leave our employment, said that they would be willing to do this on a part-time basis. They have not been able, they don't want to continue full-time because of overtime and things like that, being drafted for overtime. So we wanted to move salaries from corrections officers into these 2 line items to, again, think outside the box and try and slow down on the overtime and keep the jail staffed.
Mr. Jeffrey?
Officer Noonan, is this budget neutral?
Actually, it's would be a little better than budget neutral. The positions for the clerks, which they will not go through DOC mandatory training, their salaries would be 37,000, and our beginning salaries in the jail are 45,000. So it's an $8,000 savings on those two positions, which we would take from the corrections officer.
Thank you. And then do we have part-timers working now, or is this something new? Will this be something new among corrections officers?
This would be something new.
Question. So you said that, and you say here, the primary role of these positions would be to process inmates with bonds. Who's processing inmates with bonds now, or did you answer that with the kiosk information?
No, it's actually, we're staffing it with corrections officers, 7 days a week from 6 a.m. to 11 at night. We have found with that new technology and just looking at what kind of walk-ins, we think we can do that with just these two persons, and the times that they're there will be officers in the building, administrators, as well as jail supervisors. At other times, when people come to bond somebody out, the jail supervisor would be able to handle the bond.
Mr. Noonan, I know that the part-time position obviously would not qualify for benefits, but the $28 hourly for the part-time is substantially more than what the 37,000 annually would calculate out to. Do you have just a explanation as to that, or is it just the difference in benefits?
The $28 would actually be for the part-time corrections officers. It would not be for the bond clerks. The bond clerks would be two full-time positions, and there would be no overtime for that. That would, if they're not there, the other one would handle the duties, or we would put one of the existing records clerks down there to cover vacations and personal days. The $28 is actually up to $28 depending on experience of the corrections officers that would come in and work part-time. They would actually be working, they've already gone through the jail training, so they're DLC compliant, and they would actually be working, I guess, inside the wall, so to speak.
Thank you for clarifying that it was a different position explicitly from the bond clerk.
Yes, the bond clerks would be just the two full-time positions in line one. The second ones would be strictly part-time corrections officers.
Thank you.
Anything else? Okay, you get motion. Bill number 1224 combined with 724. All those in favor? Opposed? Bill number 1224 and 724I report a favorable recommendation.
Thank you very much.
Next is bill number 1324, salary amendment from probate court combined with the appropriation of $2,432.
Brenda Matthews-Skavich, Executive Director of the CASA program with offices located at 1000 South Michigan Street. We are asking for a salary amendment to raise our current program coordinator salary from the 43,964 to 46,396. We are proposing that the 2432 come from our current grant matching fund. This, our program coordinator is a key position to not only our program at the county. She's been with us for 15 years. This salary amendment would actually raise her salary to be the equivalent of current staff that are coming in, making the 46,000. We're also requesting that the amendment be retroactive to the budget year. Anything to add?
Questions? Mr. Schetzel?
I do.
Okay, go ahead.
You want to be a CASA, right? That's what you're gonna ask?
No.
Okay.
Did you make this request during the budget process?
I think we discussed it during the budget process and
We discussed it in-house,
yeah,
but we didn't bring it to the budget meeting.
And when you say key employee, what does that mean?
I mean, she's the face of our program. She's been with us for over 15 years at this point. She manages to a great extent the volunteers. She manages the staff when I'm not there. She's key in training volunteers and staff on our database. There's numerous things that she's done over the years. I would say her position has evolved over the years, much more responsibility.
Good, right, good grants, right, grant money, you said?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, it's not coming from the general.
It's not coming from the general fund. The county's not paying for it. It's coming from our funds from matching dollars, which come from the Indiana State Office of GAL CASA. And there is sufficient dollars there to accommodate this request.
Is that a grant you get every year?
It is a grant that we get every year. It's based on number of children that are adjudicated children in need of services each year. So our grant for 2024 is typically based on the number of children in foster care in 2022. So the grant does fluctuate depending on kind of what's going on in our community, the climate, things like that. I think there are probably around 600 children in St. Joseph County right now in foster care. We have a few children on our wait list because we have 2 vacancies that we've been trying to fill for a while, but everybody pays more money than us, so it's been difficult to fill.
So for the 2025 budget, are you willing to commit to taking this amount of this salary, $2,432 from this same grant?
I believe that would be something we would be discussing.
That's the judge's intention, that this would continue to be funded by that matching grant. And it's sustainable for the foreseeable future. He has 487,000 right now.
Much of that grant will be used for VOCA. Those of you that have been around for a while know about our Victims of Crime Act grant. That grant's going to be cut approximately by 40 to 60%. Probably, when we're awarded in 10-1. So that may sound like a lot of money, but that grant is probably going to have to foot the bill for 3 people's salaries and benefits for a 2-year cycle.
Hopefully said favorable. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Bill number 1324 combined with 724J moves with a favorable recommendation. Next, we have the Health Department. Thank you. Bill number 1424, salary amendment, combined with a budget reduction of $1,039.
Hi, yes, Amy Ruffey, Administrator for the Department of Health with offices on the 8th and 9th floor of this building. For Fund 1159, which is our County Health Department, we would like to create a position of Director of Operations to be able to support the additional staff and workload that we will see from Health First Indiana, as well as create an internship and fellowship program, as well as an active volunteer program, which we currently do not have at the Department of Health. Adding a Director of Operations will allow the Director of Finance to focus on their current duties, as well as the additional duties that will be coming out of Health First Indiana. Using Health First Indiana funds, the Department of Health would like to award over $973,000 in grants to 19 different community partners. The Director of Finance would be responsible for the monthly review of all of the invoices and receipts submitted for reimbursement of funds by those awardees. Another position we would like to add is a communications and event specialist, which would be tasked with all of our public messaging and event planning between our units and our community. In order to add the 2 additional staff members to our county health budget, we would be offloading 2 positions to Health First Indiana. One of those positions is a health promotion specialist, and the other is a Director of Hope. Another contribution to that would be excess amounts budgeted for part-time, as well as excess funds for data analysts, both of which are in our county health department budget. This request does give back $1,039 of our 2024 requested budget.
Jensen?
When you say director, does that mean that these folks will be responsible for their budget or keeping track of staff time, staff hours, how much comp time staff gets? Are they going to be responsible for that as a director?
The Director of Operations, yes, they would be overseeing all of the personnel aspects of the department. And they would work in collaboration with the Director of Finance, the Health Officer regarding budgets as well.
Okay. And then the Director of Community Partnership and Redevelopment, that's coming up, right?
Correct,
We're
that's
not there yet.
within the,
Okay.
yes, Fund 116.
Kind of explain which Director of Operations, Communications, Event Specialist, Health Promotion Specialist. Can you go over one more time the difference between those jobs, what those people will be doing?
The Director of Operations will be handling the personnel for the whole Department of Health. The Director of Finance will be handling finances for all of the department as well as HFI grants. The Health Promotion Specialist, they will be moving to the care unit, which was formerly the HEED unit, working on mental health. They will be going out in the community and creating programs to address mental health awareness. And our Director of Hope, that position, there'll be more discussion on that in the next bill, but that position will slowly be eliminated once all of those duties move over to the care unit. And then we would be asking for a new position to help support our Health First Indiana efforts.
Mr. Cannon?
Yes, my question.
Any other questions? Okay, is there a motion?
Motion to send favorable.
Second. All in favor? Opposed? Okay, bill number 1424 combined with 724 moves forward with a favorable recommendation. Next is it's bill number 1524, salary amendment, combined with an appropriation of $2,466,068.46.
This fund, the fund name is Local Public Health Services. However, this is our Health First Indiana Fund. So I always refer to it as HFI. So I just wanted to clarify that starting off. The St. Joseph County has received over $3.293 million from HFI. We already went through the budget process with our annual budget and appropriated $827,187. Therefore, we are needing to appropriate the remaining balance of $2.466 million. A new position for the department using HFI funds would be the Director of Community Partnerships and Development. This position would be responsible for creating, cultivating, and maintaining community partnerships as it relates to HFI funding, as well as overseeing the process for Health First Indiana grant requests, programs, and key performance indicators. They would also be responsible for identifying, executing, and maintaining any external grant opportunities. As I mentioned during the request for the County Health Fund, we offloaded the Health Promotion Specialist as well as the Director of Hope to Health First Indiana funding. The duties of the Hope unit are slowly being transitioned to the care unit. Once that is complete, the Director of Hope would be eliminated as we would not have a Hope unit any further. Other additional staff requested in Health First Indiana include a nurse to help with the case management of communicable diseases, a food service specialist, as well as a certified pool operator, which would be one position, to increase the number of yearly inspections per establishment in St. Joseph County. A lead program coordinator, where additional duties would be added to a disease investigation specialist currently focusing on lead poisoning prevention activities, and to create the position to coordinate all lead activities between all of the units within the Department of Health. One specific account that I want to speak on is account number 33034, which is the grants account. This is the account that we have set aside for the 19 grants that we would like to award, covering 5 of the core services.
Questions? Mr. Schatzel.
So those 19 grants, the video that you sent us, was that those organizations are the ones getting?
Correct, those were the 19, yeah, that did the
Okay.
public presentation.
And you already mentioned this, but I'd like you to go into a little more depth. One of the things I noticed when I watched that video is key performance indicators. I didn't see a lot about that from those organizations. You said the Director of Community Partnerships and Development is going to be tracking that. Can
That's
you
right.
elaborate on that a little bit for me?
Yeah, actually, we have 2 data analysts within our Department of Health. We have Brandon Gary and we have Peter Duffy, who is joining remotely, and he has a presentation where we can show you how we will be tracking the key performance indicators and the financial information with each of our awardees, so.
Hey, everybody. My name is Peter Duffy. Like Amy said, I'm a data analyst with the Department of Health, and I'm here today to review the financial and key performance indicator reporting system that we built. We're hoping that the system will help us to monitor the overall performance of the grant awardees and allow the awardees to see their own impact in the community and on the community members. And also it will help for them to have thorough financial accountability. I'm going to share my screen and show you. I need to have screen sharing enabled in order to share my screen though. There we go. All right. All right. Can everybody see that?
Yes.
Yep, we're good.
Excellent. All right. So we put in a dummy account so that we could show you the way that the system works. When we received RFPs from organizations within the community requesting grants, we were able to take those that passed our quality control measures and everything that had been put in place by the people who were set up to review that, and work within each RFP to create what we felt were actual measurable KPIs for each individual program for which funds would be awarded. And we needed to have a way to measure those. And so we created a system where essentially a survey link goes out to each individual awardee for a schedule that's predetermined for them to report on their KPIs. We have 2 reporting systems set up. One that is, we're calling it quarterly internally, but it's a 10-month grant cycle. So it's not actually quite quarterly, but it's 4 reporting periods within the 10 months. And then we have one where they report on some separate KPIs at the end of the grant cycle. And so whenever they receive their link for their reporting at the time to report, they'll receive survey that looks like this, and it'll have all of their organization's information already entered, along with the KPIs that were previously agreed upon, including the amount that they wish to reach, and what that goal looked like. And if there is a baseline, dependent upon what the KPI is, what that baseline is, so that we have something that we're measuring against. These are samples for this particular program, which again is a dummy program, but these are the kind of things that we're seeing within the KPIs for the programs that we are awarding grants on. And these are things like number of programs held, or the number of people that attend those programs that are held that are funded by the grant, or medical devices or other devices that might be distributed as a result of the grant, or educational material provided. And so as they go in and they report, for instance, if they wanted to have 20 programs throughout the course of the 10-month cycle with 25 attendees target at each one, and they put in that in the first quarter they had, let's say 49 people show up, they could see that they had only hit 9.8% of their goal, and they still had 90% to go. And then for blood pressure cuffs, we'll just put in that they had given out, let's say 189. And this does all the math for them to allow them to see what their key performance indicator progress is as they move forward. When they receive the one for the next quarter, they will be able to see what they reported the previous quarter, what their goal, how much of their goal they had reached at that time, and then as they enter their new information, how much of the goal that they've reached and what they have left to go. And then at the end, we have a, no, actually, I don't have it pulled up, but we have one for the end where a lot of the programs have a KPI or several KPIs that are to be reported at the end because some of them are the only kind of things that can be reported once the program is complete. And those are typically things where they're going to take the entire cycle or whatever it may be. And those will be specific to each individual program, but they will have a very similar reporting process as this right here. And then we also have financial, which is monthly, which I can show you guys if you would like, but it's all included within the same system. And all of this reporting capability is tied back to the original RFP, which allows us to see not only the information that they entered for the grant itself, what the money was going for, line items, key performance indicators, how successful they were along the way. And all of that is broken down individually by program, but then also can be seen for the program as a whole. Are there any questions that I can answer, or would you guys like to see the financial reporting capabilities?
I have a question. So are the KPIs, I mean, are there some that are consistent across all the different applicants, or are they all different and specifically targeted at each one?
They're all individualized, and everyone was pulled out of the narrative related to the program specifics. So what we did was we met internally quite extensively to determine, based on what the program was that they were funding with the money, what it was that they were trying to do, and actual measurables that would come out of that were measurables that we could actually measure, things that were not qualitative, but that were quantitative, that we could actually see, so that we could better measure not only program success, but return on investment and all the things that go along with that. Qualitative results are great, but quantitative results matter. And so we wanted to make sure that every program had at least 2 KPIs that they were reporting on throughout the program. So there's at least 2 for every single program for quarterly updates. And then every single one has at least 1 program, entire program KPI at the end that they have to report on. Most of them have multiple, some have 7, 8, 9 of them. It just depends on the complexity of the program, but every single one is individualized. And when they go in to do their reporting, all they see is the information that's specific to their program. They don't see anything related to anybody else's. So they're simply reporting on the information that is relevant to them.
So all this information go to both local and state? And then with these numbers, have you told them, unless you meet 50% of this goal, you won't be considered in the future, or is there any discussion as to how that works?
I think one of the important pieces, I'm Beth Forshope, I'm the health officer. One of the important pieces of this is ensuring accountability and people achieving their goals in a timely fashion, which is why we have that progress to goal. And why we also created a position for director of the community partnership, because they will provide mentoring. And if we notice that people are not achieving their goals in the appropriate time, we can intervene early on as opposed to waiting at the end of the year to make sure that the goals are achieved. The other issue is perhaps the intervention isn't actually achieving the outcome that we hoped. Then we would have an opportunity early on to have a conversation about changing or adapting that intervention. Because ultimately we need to be able to show that we've had appropriate outcomes. And that everyone is being held accountable. There's this transparent set of expectations, the health department and our partners, about where we need to go and what is the time frame for that. And so as they fill out these forms, they are seeing the exact same thing we are in terms of what was their reported goal and how are they doing every quarter, actually a little bit less than a quarter, in achieving that goal. And we see those same numbers, so we can have conversations about achieving those metrics in a timely fashion.
Is there an expectation that if they don't meet those goals, they wouldn't be considered in the future, or, I mean, have you even discussed that?
I think we haven't discussed that formally, but I think that's an obvious point, if they are unsuccessful, not cooperative, the project is not going in the direction that the health department thinks it needs to go to, then there would be ramifications for that. The other part of it is all of our financial component is being reviewed on a monthly basis. It's not like we're giving one big check and saying, good luck, we'll see how it goes at the end of the year. We're being very thoughtful about making sure that they submit receipts, that the project goals are moving in the right directions, and that they have mentoring from our department, because ultimately we want to see them successful. We want to see this money be used in a positive way and have impact right away, without any additional duplication, which was, you know, the advice that I got from this council the first time we met. And so we worked very hard to come up with a transparent system and build the structure to provide that.
To Mr. Duffy, or anyone can answer it. Mr. Duffy said each program has at least 2 KPIs reported quarterly. So when you said each program, does that mean each of the 19 organizations that are getting grant money? So
you elaborate, I believe you said that there's going to be like lead-based prevention program. Did I hear that correctly?
A lead program coordinator. That is going to oversee all of the lead programs. It's going to be our disease investigation specialist that right now works on the lead blood case management. They're going to work with everyone in our department that works on lead. So our environmental health that does the lead risk assessments, our public health nursing, our CHWs that are out in the field. It's going to have one main person in charge of all lead activities.
Okay, I mean, that sounds great, but did you say lead-based prevention? Like a program, you know, dedicated to that? I didn't hear that. Maybe I did.
I would think though, overall, like as we are in 2024, there's always the effort to continue actual prevention work of lead poisoning. So I envision the work we're doing so far, while it's screening and then case monitoring, case management is necessary. There is several prevention efforts, lead-free by 3, as well as a perinatal program internally to the Department of Health that will be kicking off this year. That will be overseen by that and are supported through that.
I guess the only concern that I would have as far as lead-based, in previous discussions, previous years, there has been talk of a reluctance from some of the families or moms, if you will. Is that got any better?
It is getting better as we work more directly with our lead-specific CHWs, and we talk through those barriers and those challenges. We've created some materials that help guide conversations and address the hesitancy some of our families have. So I do feel that that's getting better, and I'm hopeful that we'll continue to see the number of children screened and the number of children impacted by elevated blood levels will hopefully eventually decrease.
Thank you.
Sir Cantor? Ask the question and
Doctor, in the line of question that Ms. Drake was asking about, as far as accountability goes, let's just, I'll throw in a hypothetical. Somebody's come to you with a grant, you're gonna award one of the 19 grants, it's a blood pressure reduction grant. And their goal was 500 people to reach to measurably show they reduce their blood pressure and are healthier. They hit 300 throughout the year. Okay, at the end of the year, and they weren't reaching their goal, obviously, throughout the quarter with 40. But at the end of the year, they hit 300. So would we see that as a win still, that we did reduce the blood pressure of 300 patients who were at risk, or do we see that as a failure that they didn't reach their goal by 100? So, or would that be something you guys would evaluate on a case-by-case basis on those individual grants?
Question. It could be looked at both ways. I think the way that I would interpret it is, was there an improvement in our community's health as a result of the funding? And if we got to 300, that's great. The second question was our initial goal or estimate realistic? Because if we didn't really have a process for recruiting or reaching that number, then that is something that we can do in terms of quality improvement for the following year. But those are the things that we'll be able to see early on. So if you were only getting at 250 and you've only got 2 or 3 months, we would know that there was an issue in achieving that goal. And then talk about, are we doing enough for improvement? Assess whether or not that goal was appropriate, or whether or not we need to think of a different strategy next term. So for me, success would be measured by how many lives touched and what is their improvement based on what we were expecting to accomplish.
No offense, Mr. Hoohan's right, thank you, but excellent question, better response. No, all kidding aside, like you said, excellent question, excellent response, thank you.
I assume as you go on,
Thank
it's gonna be competitive anyway, as people become more knowledgeable that they have this money to use through this program. But in that idea, with your community outreach person, is she, like, how are you going to be continuously letting people know that these grant opportunities exist? Because I know with the next, we're gonna have even more money available possibly for the grants to continue to make known to people. What are you guys doing about that?
I think we've got a couple of different opportunities. The first thing is the way we carry things out this time around and the expectations that we set and the success that we get. People in this community are very well connected. They all talk to each other. So one way of advertising to community partners and other partners that are related to them is through word of mouth. The other thing that we do is we advertise. We advertise in public newspapers. We hold conferences and let people know that this is a Q&A type of session. But advertising is an important component to make sure that everyone has equal access to coming and being part of the process. Word of mouth is another one. But one thing that we will continue to do is make sure that everyone has equal access to apply, and the time frame is even for everybody. Anybody else from the team want to add any other thoughts? Thank you, Mr. Tanner.
Thank you. This is maybe more Romeo and Juliet, what's in an eggs. But we've heard a lot about the Hope unit versus the care unit and the transition between the two. Could you explain, is that purely driven by the HFI? Or is that a transition in the approach that the department's making as a whole and what the priorities are?
I think one of the things that we wanted to make sure we were successful in is matching our goals with our structure and our funding. And having different units being specialized so that there's accountability for the progress in that, on that topic. And so as we thought through what our structure should look like, how that is reflected, funding that we're giving for growth, and what areas people were doing multiple projects and all, but there wasn't any ownership on that topic, we ended up developing this new space. And some of the key components that were part of Hope ended up becoming part of HEED. And so when we thought about what did that represent, it represent community access, resource, and education. And thinking about what we need for this HFI grant to be successful in the health department to grow in structure, we realized we really truly need a community committee. Somebody that is out in the community, identifying key partners to ensure that the health department is appropriately connected and serving all. And then also is keeping an eye on our HFI funding, making sure that we are on track for that. And making sure that our grants are appropriately coming into the health department, so we continue to remain competitive. So when we thought about what does that structure look like and where are our players, that ended up being the structure we thought we would be most successful with.
It's the transition from one to the other, utilizing a name that more appropriately communicates what those schools are.
It's easier for the health department to communicate with the public when what we're doing and the rules describe the function of what we do day to day.
Thank you so much.
Okay, is there a motion on bill number 1524? The 724L.
Second.
All in favor? Opposed? Okay, bill number 1524 combined with 724L is forward with a favorable recommendation. Next, we have bill number 1624, salary amendment combined with bill number 724, an appropriation of $81,332.
The next two appropriation requests, I know they're in two different, bills. They're combined to make one vector program, so I'm going to speak on both of them together. The funds are the Local Health Services Fund and the Health Trust Fund. And as mentioned, we would like to fund a vector program for St. Joseph County. The the program would have one full-time vector coordinator, one full-time vector / environmental health specialist, and one part-time vector specialist. With a dedicated vector program in St. Joe County, we would be able to start our larvicide program early in the season, monitor it and treat it appropriately all the way through October, which could reduce the need to spray for mosquitoes and reduce the mosquito population. Outside of the summer months, the vector coordinator would focus on program development, creation of a strategic plan, provide data analysis of the vector program, and start a tick surveillance program and education as St. Joe County leads Indiana with the number of Lyme disease cases. Any questions?
Yes, right?
But Brett gonna be the person heading this out.
I'm sure he will be applying for the position.
Okay, he'll be applying for it.
Yes.
We leave the state and
Lyme
Lyme disease cases. And in your description, you said we would have. We talked about spraying less for mosquitoes.
If we start a larvicide program early in the season, that could potentially lead to the reduction of having to spray for mosquitoes. So having a full-time vector program and being able to monitor that and track that would lead to the reduction of spraying.
We had that many years ago in the health department. I'm sure none of that equipment's around anymore.
No, I believe the majority of that probably.
Actually, I mean, I try to be as resourceful as I can, use all parts of the buffalo. And I have salvaged parts of the old stuff that was mothballed in the Olive Street garage and have been using an amount of it. Not a lot of it is, wasn't that good, and there was a lot that was surplused out, but one of the old original foggers and a couple of the craps, whatever I can salvage, I can save a nickel, might as well.
So larvicide is not sprayed. That's something different. That's baiting them, I assume, or?
So because mosquitoes breed in water, and you can breed hundreds of thousands of mosquitoes in part of a coffee can. It's much easier to just treat that standing water and kill all those mosquitoes than to go drive the truck around, kill them all. It's also much cheaper. A 40-pound bag of granular larvicide is about $110, and I can treat about 110 sites with it. Whereas if I was to, every time that we go out and spray, it's $500-ish per site.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm really appreciative of that because I've had people come to me upset about the mosquito spray. I don't like the mosquito spray either. And a lot of people have health concerns with that. So taking care of it this way, I think is a benefit to everyone's health. Any other questions? Mr. Johnson?
Thank you. So how much do you think, have you thought about how much we'll save by spraying less?
So, like I mentioned, for every site that we treat, I mean, for $1, or for 30 cents, I'm treating a site as opposed to 500. Last year, we had more positive West Nile testing pools than any other county in the state at 154. So if we were to treat all of those, then we're talking I don't know. We sprayed all 153, we're looking at $77,000. We did not spray that much, so we could only, do so much with what we had. And so costs would be down. I can't give you an exact number of, the cost benefits, but it is quite apparent that it's far more cost effective on the whole to treat larvae than it is adults.
In your line items, you have a line vector. I know a biological vector would be like a mosquito. I'm sure you're not buying mosquitoes, but where it says vectors, how much was that one? $50,000. What is that?
So that's the general operating expenses, everything from our West Nile test kits, the alfalfa that we use for some of our traps, buying more traps, and the chemicals that we would use to apply. And then, you know, the random things that you realize you need, like little droppers and nets and all sorts of, you know, bug spray and all that.
So operating expenses.
Yeah,
Very good.
operating expenses.
The education outreach, can you explain a little more what that kind of looks like?
So part of the educational outreach is focused on, I would like for there to be a better stab at Lyme disease. Like Amy mentioned, we have more Lyme disease in this county than any other county in the state. We hit our quota for ticks to be tested in March. Over 50% of the ticks, the black-legged ticks that we collect come back positive. So there's not really a tick-specific chemical like there is for mosquitoes. There's just broad-based parasites that I don't want to go out and kill all the spiders. That's no good for anybody. The best thing to do is to educate people about where the ticks are and how they can like clean up their yards and that, you know, not harbor ticks. I would like to be able to go, me, or if somebody else were to take the position, go to like HOA meetings and try and explain, you know, hey, there's a cluster of Lyme disease in this area. Clean up your leaves, you know, make sure that you're wearing your repellent, that sort of thing. As well as just general outreach about the program itself. We get comments all the time from, you know, where we would go out and spray, like, what are you doing? And we try to explain it. They're like, oh, well, I had no idea, which is because, you know, it got mothballed back in 2008, 9, whatever it was. So a little bit of all of that.
Yeah. I mean, radio commercials might get you a wider audience, something like that. I don't know, just some idea. And then the last question I had is now, why now?
So the short answer is we've got the money now. I've been a proponent for a vector program ever since I started back in 17. It was 2019. I don't know if you might recall, there was a big Eastern equine encephalitis outbreak. It killed a lot of people in Michigan, somebody in Elkhart. For those of you who don't know, Triple E, if you do get Triple E, the encephalitic version, there's a 1 in 3 chance you end up 6 foot under. Like, it's very serious. And if you do survive, you have lifelong neurological problems. It was bad enough that there was aerial spraying done by airplanes up in Michigan, like 56,000 acres got sprayed, as well as some in Elkhart, LaGrange, and Noble counties. In 2020, there was another Triple E outbreak where there was Triple E in Elkhart, Kosciuszko, Marshall, Lake, LaPorte, as well as Berrien and Cass County in Michigan. You're the center of the donut, which is not a fun place to be when you're trying to deal with a health outbreak. Luckily, you know, knock on wood, we didn't have anything. We didn't have anybody get Triple E. But since the revival of the program in mid-2020 up until now, myself and Josiah Hartman, who's one of our environmental health specialists, worked tirelessly to try and get this program up and going and productive. I'd say that we've done fairly well. If you compare the dollars spent to efficiency for us in Marion County, it's not even close. Like we had not counting salaries, I spent about $35,000 last year, and we had no human cases. We tested roughly the same amount of mosquitoes and they had human cases, and they spent $3.5 million. So, but how we've been doing it, like those job duties, being able to focus that more and not just do a piecemeal, you know, try and catch everything we can and actually do an honest effort, will have even better outcomes than we've had.
And just one more thing that you can provide. But one of the goals that we were talking about is making sure that we do the work that we are able to do. And so by having a specific vector group, we will no longer be requiring our EHS staff to do that also in addition to their busy season, because they will now be doing vector work. And that is their responsibility in terms of developing and assisting the program. Because as you can see, within our EHS staff have been doing a lot of vector work because we haven't had that financial support. So just kind of increasing transparency on what the health department is doing and putting funding in areas that really prevent and protect public health. Not prevent public health, or for public health. But anything else? Bill number 54.
Motion to table. Second.
All those in favor? Opposed? Bill number 1624, combined with bill number 724, is for favorable recommendation. Final health department is bill number 1724, a salary amendment by an appropriation of $336,470.
And this goes along with
Oh,
the,
okay.
yeah, it's just split between two separate funds.
Is there a motion?
Second.
All those in favor? Opposed? Bill number 724 and we stood with a favorable recommendation.
Thank you. Next up is any miscellaneous matters. We do have the Budget and Administration Committee have one.
Yes, bill number 1-24, general obligation bond, St. Joseph County Airport. Petitioner. Mr. Chuck.
Good evening. Members, Senator from Barton Dormer. I'm here with, together with representatives of the airport and Baker Tilly, Emma Adlam here from Baker Tilly as the airport's municipal advisor is with us as well. Mike Daigle and Renata. So with me. What the request of the council is it's an ordinance approving a bond ordinance that is to be adopted by the airport authority, together with the corresponding additional appropriation ordinance that the airport authority will approve. Hopefully later this week, the airport authority. Project is a quick turnaround rental car facility that would provide for the consolidation of maintenance, fueling, and cleaning of rental cars at the airport. The cost of that construction is anticipated to be less than this amount, but not entirely sure. So the bond amount is set as $6,750,000, not to exceed. The interest rate on the bond in the bond ordinance is 8%. It will be a taxable bond, and that's why it's set as high as it is, because there will be private use by rental facilities or rental providers. And so again, hopefully considerably less than 8% when they go to the market, but taxable bond and give it a fair rate for in November and October. That's where the pack is. The bonds are have a final maturity no later than 20 years. Currently, it is hoped that would be something like 12 or 13 years. And it is a general obligation bond of the airport district or the airport authority district. And it would be a possible levy by the airport authority. The reason why I say possible is that it is reasonably anticipated that they will be using customer facility charges to actually make the debt service payments on their bonds. So it is not anticipated by the airport authority that they would levy a tax. And that coverage can be discussed. It's over 125% coverage, and that can be discussed by advisor for the airport authority if there's additional questions. I can answer any questions, or the other representatives of the airport.
Any questions for Mr. Facenda or any other representative?
No, can you just speak to why you have to come to the county council to approve a bond?
Yeah, it's statutory. So because the airport authority also comes before you for other budgetary reasons under their statute, they have to come before you, get their bond approved.
and the additional appropriation that goes along with the bond.
Danzer, Renata, on the, what Mr. Vicenda spoke to, 125% participation, can you explain that a little better?
Well, actually, it might be best if Emma from Baker Tilly explains it. They've done the analysis for us. He's the expert, if you don't mind.
Good evening, Emma Adlam with Baker Tilly. The coverage is based on an average of the last 2 years of the customer facility charge revenues. They were strong in 22, even stronger in 23. We took an average of those two to be a little bit conservative. And the ratio of revenue to debt service is anticipated to be a little over 1.25, which is considered adequate coverage to, for the airport to say that they reasonably expect that they don't intend to levy that property tax, but it's really just enhancing the marketability of the bonds. That bond purchasers view property taxes as more secure than the CFC revenues. And so having this as a backup while not intending to use it will result in a better interest rates, lower interest expense over the life of the bond issue.
Emma, are we paying another bond with PFCs as well?
It's a different revenue stream, very similar acronyms, but it is a different revenue stream.
Coverage ratio just includes this bond only.
Correct.
Any other questions? From Mr. Daigle, I guess, will this in any way be in a location that will interfere with the future west side relocation of South Shore Railroad to the airport?
It will not.
It will not.
Will not.
Where's it plan on going? Or where do you plan on building this?
The QTA is, we've actually started construction last month.
So you started construction?
Did.
So you've awarded engineering, who's building it?
Yoder and construction.
Yoder Construction. Okay.
Is it, am I remembering this right? Did we not use American Rescue Plan dollars to help start this project?
Yes, there was.
800-ish thousand?
So about 800,
Okay.
20,000 or so, yeah. And then there's some additional dollars through the rescue plan, through the Shirley Hines thing. That is still in the process. It's not been
Oh, that's right.
finalized. So we're working on that. Had a conversation with him again today.
What's the airport's DBE goal with vendors and contractors?
I don't know off the top of my head. I'll have to find that answer and get it back to you.
You guys have one?
Yes,
You know what Yoder's providing on this job?
I do not off the top of my head. I'm sorry.
Are they a disadvantaged business enterprise, Yoder Construction?
I don't believe so, but we will need to verify that. We do have a disadvantaged business program and airport disadvantaged business program. We are required to do that. So we comply with all those and set our goals.
Mr. Daigle, has the airport ever had a bond where they used customer facility charges to pay the bond? And they ended up having to then go to the taxpayer? We're unable, never have.
It was actually the opposite. There was a bond that was using property taxes and the airport was revenue streaming strong enough that they removed themselves from the property tax.
Yeah, a couple more questions. So how long have you guys been planning this?
QTA
Is that what this is called?
project, yes, it's
Yeah.
called QTA. Probably about 2 years is about the time we've been working on it, get it done. Get the plans to keep moving forward.
Okay. You mentioned 2 years and I'm gonna still bring this up. It's not related to this bond, but it's been 2 years or over 2 years since the South Shore contract has expired with the airport authority. And I know you guys are working to get that negotiated. And the most recent renewal of that contract or temporary extension expires at the end of this month. You guys have a board meeting this week. NICTD has a board meeting this week. Is there any way you guys can get that ironed out? Because basically you planned this for 2 years, that's been expired for 2 years. Can we get to a point to get this worked out? Because there's a lot hanging the balance. Our taxpayers in this county went on the hook for, I'm gonna guess, I think $16 million we invested in the double tracking project. How much? 18.5, there you go. We invested that kind of money in anticipation that we are gonna be participants in the double tracking project to get a quicker response time or quicker travel time from Chicago to South Bend on the South Shore. That's being held up because NICTD, at this point, when I've been told, will not award their engineering contract, their $5 million engineering contract for the West Side project until this gets negotiated and worked out.
Because they can't in good conscience go engineer a project that they don't know if they're gonna have an easement into the railroad or into the airport or not, so. I just can't figure out why the two entities can't get together and get this hammered out. We've been at it for 2 years.
We've been
With
on
extensions.
We've been on extensions for 2 years. We've got another one that will go to front of the board this week. That will extend it till March 31st. Our hope is to get progress done by then.
So you continue to negotiate.
We continue to move forward, yes.
I'm not on the NICD board, I'm a former member. Carl Baxmar is a member of the NICD board. I mean, Carl, do you have confidence that we can get this hammered out? Because I'm not comfortable with considering a bond right now for this QTA project until we get this West Side project worked out. Personally, that's just me. I mean, I think we've invested 18.5 million of county taxpayer dollars in the double tracking project. And I think it's another $100 million to do the West Side relocation project, of which is a significant investment to get that travel time down to an hour and a half and to help make South Bend potentially an eastern suburb of Chicago, if that's what we want, or Cinco County. So I mean, I just hate to see us being at an impasse. Where do you feel at the board you guys will be when we meet next week?
There has been some movement, moving closer, and I feel confident that by March 31st, we'll have a great. Got you. We can't, as you said in your remarks, can't afford, we already made substantial investment in this.
Anybody else spot up? Thank you, Mr. Schnitzel.
Any other questions from Mr. Senda or Mr. Daigle or anyone else from the airport? Seeing no other questions, may I have a motion on bill number 1-24?
Mr. Schnitzel, I recommend we send it with our recommendation and maybe see if these two bodies can get together before we vote on it, send it with our recommendation.
Second.
Second.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Bill number 1-24 moves to full council with no recommendation. Mr. Root.
Next up is land use planning.
President, bill number 6-24, special use park located at 12670 State Road 23, petition. Right, LLC, did I say that right? Oh. Okay.
I think so. Give it a whirl.
Give me one sec, sorry about that. You put this back in. That's how you put it. Put it in, but there's only one, so she has to save it. Oh, with the, yeah.
Turn it on.
Hi, I'm L'Oreal Street Area Plan Commission staff, offices on the 11th floor. We have one special use petition for you tonight. It's for a proposed tattoo salon at property off State Road 23, also known as Adams Road in Granger.
As you may recall from previous petitions, tattoo salons are considered a controlled use under the current zoning ordinance. And a special use is needed to permit this in the commercial district. The property is a one-story retail plaza with 2 units. The petitioners currently operate a beauty salon in the front suite of this building, the pink part. They would like to expand their services to include some kinds of tattooing and permanent makeup. Closer view of their suite. This is the front of the lot looking westward. Right next to this plaza is a restaurant. Across the street is an auto repair business. This is looking eastward from the parking lot. This portion of State Road 23 corridor is mostly commercial in nature, with the other retail and service type businesses nearby. There is some industrial zoning nearby too. This is a view from the rear of the property, showing industrial development abutting it. If the subject property were located in an industrial district, the use would be allowed outright without any special use. Staff finds that state law criteria have been met. The business will obtain relevant permits from the county health department that states they will pay special regard to necessary health and safety protocols. Approval will not create a new use that is significantly different from nearby commercial uses or previous retail uses on the property. This does come to you from the Area Board of Zoning Appeals with a unanimous favorable recommendation. I believe they're on Zoom.
Hi, Maribel Villafana here from Everlasting Link Studio. Hi, I'm Rosa. I'm her partner.
Anybody have any questions? Well, thank you for being. Oh, I'm sorry. Are you guys currently in operation someplace else?
Yes, only for the salon part. We specialize in lash extensions. And that's all we do, and brow waxing.
So will you be, well, obviously you have to obtain the necessary permits. You guys are trained, I guess, tattoo artists, or you're going to employ trained tattoo artists complying with all of our county's health requirements?
Not yet. They said that we had to get zoning first.
Okay.
And then we could do the thing with the health department.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
We ask that since you guys have seen a couple of these come through without a lot of public comment against it, we should probably be introducing a text amendment to make tattoo salons permitted in the commercial district. So just expect to see that soon. Our BZA did request that.
This is our third one that I put.
No, that's six.
You never know.
We thought we would be done after we had the first two,
Yeah.
and then this one came, and that is a signal that, okay, so at the time the zoning ordinance was written and it's gone through various iterations. Tattoo parlors were like, looked at differently than they are today. So in light of the fact that we've had 3 of these sail through with virtually no public comments, tells us we probably need to go back and update our zoning ordinance. Yeah, and our BZA asked us to do that, so we're likely gonna queue up a text amendment to do that and fix a couple other minor things.
And is it safe to say that kind of universally, the microblading form of permanent makeup or semi-permanent makeup, it falls under the health category of tattooing. But it is certainly a different than traditional service that tattooing is considered. I can attest, at least from my period of time that I served on the Mishawaka City Council, that the last 2 years, there were close to a dozen applicants with no restrictions. So we might be getting more. From that
You're saying mainly because of the microblading?
I'm sorry.
You do hair replacement? I'm with you.
We've got a room full that need it.
Good question. Are you do? Okay. All right. Can I have a motion then? Second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. That's all I have, Mr. President. Wait, there's more.
Next up is the Rules Committee. As you recall from last year, we reviewed the outstanding tax abatements. So Mr. Dalton reminded me that, we just need to confirm our process. I know Mr. Handwright, had to confirm last, I think you all got there.
It was.
So want to put it out on the table as to what should be the process to review the outstanding tax abatements. Mr. Dalton, if you want to give us a quick review of how we did it last year.
The state only requires that the abated company submit a single form called the CF1. You have in a couple previous years asked for additional information that we call affectionately the CF1 supplemental, and it included more information about pay levels and jobs and confirm more of the details of what they committed to. So you can choose to ask that additional information. I just want to confirm your process that you want. You can also just take an entire pass. There are some councils that don't even review abatements. You don't have to. It's up to you.
I say we do the form and the extra form.
Extra form?
Yeah. I mean, that, you know,
That's what you guys did last year.
that's what I'm saying. I mean, why back off from that? It
Ask
makes more accountability.
Everybody good with that? Send out the notices to the companies, ask them to do what we did last year. We'll get those in May. We'll look at them at committee.
Good for everybody? You'll draft the old thumbs up?
There you go.
All right, that was the only thing, but, Mr. Tanner reminded me that during the budget process, we were gonna review the surveyor itself. Remember, we had to do some unique stuff last year because we had non-licensed there. And, obviously with that position being on the ballot this year, Tanner reminded me that we need to address that, and so, I want to commend Mr. Tanner to begin the process of that. And, Brian, if you want to kind of give us an update on what's
Kind
been.
of summarize what I did, you summary. So by and large, if you recollect, there was a caucus to replace the outgoing surveyor. I did call into effect the state statute that a licensed surveyor is paid 1.5 times an unlicensed surveyor in any given county. We didn't have that separated and had to create that. I think it was deemed, I'll just plainly say it in fairness, that our current county surveyor being unlicensed anticipated receiving the pay that was defined within the budget, and that pay was adjusted roughly middle of last year. However, during budget season, we did broadly discuss that that if a licensed surveyor, we don't know who's going to run for this office this year, the filing period is still open. I don't know if we will have a licensed or unlicensed surveyor come 2025. But I think we broadly agree that the calculus of what our current unlicensed surveyor receives, adjusted up to what a licensed surveyor would receive, is not an appropriate compensation for what that position requires in our county. Now, I don't want to speak for everybody, but I think that was the broad.
It's not an appropriate salary. It was to go 1.5.
Right, which would have.
I think it's too high.
What's that?
You think it's too high at 1.5?
Right now, our unlicensed surveyor is budgeted at 72,000. A licensed surveyor would receive 108,000. And unlike many other counties who don't have an IPG department with a leadership structure in the way that we have in St. Joseph County, other county surveyors have a larger amount of A, responsibilities and B, impact in the work that's conducted. Not to diminish the role in our county or what the role could be at some point in time. But as people are filing, potentially filing, or have filed for this specific role right now, or before the filing deadline, I thought it was in good conscious that we get ahead of this, at least in communicating to these folks who have filed or will have filed prior to the withdrawal deadline, that it is at least our body's intent to make an adjustment to that come the 2024 going into 2025 budget cycle. It's not that we have to set that in stone, but I think it's in fairness to anybody who's running for that position, similar to the adjustment that was made middle of last year, that we at least communicate to them what not exact numbers are, but an intent to make an adjustment.
Make your adjustment on just for the license
Well, it has to be both. It must be both by
They're
state law.
tied together.
Okay. And we don't necessarily have to define what that is now. That's a job for the budget season, but if you would like, I did do some homework at least to where the Elkhart County surveyor is paid currently. And some things that we could consider. Again, that's getting the cart before the horse, because we're not in budget season. We're not making any formal determinations now. If we were to make determinations now, we could easily override them in budget season. So I think it's more in earnest of communicating to these candidates, potential candidates, that a change may or is likely coming, in fairness to them.
So what type of change as far as what do you have?
So the Elkhart County surveyor right now, with a slightly smaller county in square miles, linear miles of drainways and section corners and population, earns 92,000 annually. License in 2024. That is their budgeted amount, plus or minus a few dollars and cents. $92,000.
So with 108?
We would be at. Again, they don't have an IPG department with a management structure. And I believe, again, this comes down to how much work is certified in-house, how much is done out of house. How many of our contracts are done with surveying as a component of an engineering contract? So it's still wouldn't be performed by a county surveyor as a licensed surveyor regardless. And really in earnest of, we had a licensed surveyor budgeted at roughly $70,000 to $72,000 for leading up to this point in time. I think in acknowledgement of the amount of responsibility that position conducts in this county. I don't know if anybody's filed for this. I haven't gone down to the clerk's office. I don't know who's planning on filing for this. So I just don't want this to be felt if we make a change, significant or otherwise, if we make a change in a downward direction come budget season, I don't want it to be perceived or felt by anybody as a retaliatory adjustment to whomever those candidates may or may not be. So it behooves us to get ahead of that, at least as a communication to you.
That may be a good argument for just going ahead and doing for the election, so that they know what they're getting.
Right. I'm not sure we can adjust salaries mid-year, an elected official.
It would not be for this year. This would be putting it out there already in for the 2025.
Take an action now, a formal vote to let everybody know what you're going to put in the budget in 2025.
Although as Brian pointed out, you can change your mind. Come
Yeah,
budget time.
a majority could change that.
Brian, did you do the math on what an unlicensed would make?
61 to.
So the rough math that I did is that surveyor should likely not make more than the Elkhart County surveyor, given the changing responsibility. We have a slightly higher population, we have this more section corner, more linear miles of drainage ways that they were technically responsible for. So assuming that there's a 3% across the board pay increase from 2024 going into 2025, that would come out to a fairly round $95,000 per year. That would, for an unlicensed.
That's unlicensed.
That is for license.
License.
That is for license.
95.
Elkhart
Okay.
County surveyor who is licensed is at roughly $92,000. Our unlicensed surveyor in St. Joe County is currently at $72,000.
So that would
Which,
take,
if it were licensed, would be 108.
let's take it down to about 61, 52.
I'm recommending that 95,000 would be a fair adjustment to a licensed surveyor in 2025. Which would make an unlicensed surveyor pay at 63,330.
63, that's what.
That's the difference.
That is assuming a 3% increase from 2024.
That's your non-licensed license.
Correct. 63, 333
And
and 95,000.
And council thoughts on that?
You know, anybody in that business? Yeah, like what? What are private sector earning in terms of salary? Maybe to, how are we able to attract someone to run the office as a licensed surveyor, or is that even critical? It doesn't seem like it's critical to have a licensed surveyor.
I would tell you that, I mean, we had an issue today with some legal descriptions we're working on that
back in the day when you could go down and have John McNamara write them for you and they were certified because the surveyor, I mean, that was a benefit to have that in-house. I would say depending on the firm, if you're a DLC or a bigger firm like that, you're probably gonna pay the surveyor a lot more than, some of the other firms. Mike Dance, for example, I mean, who's not a surveyor, but he's a landscape architect. When the surveyors in his group probably make a little less, probably. So I think just depending on the size of the firm would depend on pay structure for that, so.
It wasn't really brought up, but I also wanted to identify that you don't probably want this position, although it's elected, to push up on what we have opted to compensate our director of planning, who has a much larger staff and set of responsibilities that kind of serving statutorily responsible for. So it's also in honor of that, if not explicitly because of that.
Will the council, we will start the ordinance process to do that, can we do that?
So, I mean, could just do a simple resolution saying that that's your anticipation, because that ordinance really isn't gonna be. It's not gonna accomplish anything because you still gotta do it in the budget, so an ordinance would be a clear indication. And just one reading of the ordinance, so to do that. There's a February
resolution.
Yeah.
Everybody agreeable with that?
Brian, can you email me the numbers? Of course,
I'll forward you exactly what I forwarded, Mr. Root, but highlight the numbers that we agreed upon tonight.
We'll go with the resolution, not the ordinance.
just a resolution.
So you said 95 and 63.3?
That's correct.
It's non-binding, it's gonna go back to budget anyway.
Right, we run with it.
But it's a way to formally
Signal our
communicate.
intent.
Right, and then good point about no one thinks it's punitive, but 10 months before the end of the year.
Ideally, we would have done this before filing started, but it's better now than later, I suppose. Thank you, Mr. Root.
Any other unfinished or business that comes before the council tonight? Anything to go to the council? Carl.
I asked for just a moment. When you make you aware of something, we will be bringing a request to you at some point to increase the liability fund. As you know, we had the fire at the Woodland Garage. 3 vehicles were destroyed. It's estimated that the replacement of those vehicles is going to be about $900,000. In addition, we have the $100,000 deductible. Thank you. Lost the word there for a second. So we're up to close to $1 million. And there were some other vehicles that were damaged, plus equipment that was lost. So we don't have a final figure yet. But I just wanted to make you aware that that was out there. And we will be coming back as soon as we have more definitive numbers.
What about cause or origin term on that one?
Where it says the initial reason was a block heater in one of the trucks overheated. What that caused is we're looking at whether the building's a total loss or not. There's disagreement on that. So that's why I'm not coming back with a more definitive.
That was a good one.
It was a Woodland.
How do you deal with not having a garage now, so they have to have it.
We are, Skies and Charlie are funneling equipment from other places. Plus, we're short 3 trucks for plowing, which caused a little consternation, but they did a great job in covering as best they can.
How many trucks are there all together for plowing?
No, I have to ask.
I mean, it's 3 of a major.
Yeah. I should know that, but I don't.
I'm good, there's. Yes, but I'm guessing.
I bet there's more than 30 trucks.
Yeah. That come out of the general fund?
The highway fund pays for its own labor. We typically have to talk about equipment because there's not enough money in the highway fund to pay for equipment. So sometimes you guys have given them CCD money or American Rescue Plan money to buy equipment.
Oh, if there's loss, we're gonna have to cover the difference.
Carl's gonna come to you and ask for it out of the liability fund since it was a insurance claim.
Or something through up to the first.
It's self-insured on the building, but the equipment we're not self-insured on. That was a decision that was made years ago, that the premiums were so high that the chance of occurrence, it was the recommendation of our insurance advisors at the time and the approval of the council and the commissioners not to be self-insured on the equipment.
Thank you, Commissioner Baxmeyer. Anything else? That's all I have. Thanks.